This is a minor Star Trek update. I'm not at Star Trek Las Vegas, but I've heard about Star Trek Las Vegas. Never actually been to their convention in Vegas. Been to Vegas several times 20 years ago, but never to the 15 years ago, but never to the convention 15, 16 years ago. But yeah, there's some news from the cast of Star Trek Prodigy Season 2 and the directors. It's all over the internet, so I thought I would chime in as a Star Trek person back to way back. I've been a fan of Trekker since I was 3 or 4, raised on the net reruns of the original show, and teenager during the Next Generation, and in my 20s during DS9, and teenager and then 20s during DS9 and Next Generation, and then on Voyager and Enterprise and in my 30s. Fan film stuff, story stuff, all that Star Trek thing. So at the convention, they, from what I hear, from what's out there on the webs, 2 different sites, Trek Movie and What Culture and some other ones, that apparently they showed some clips from Season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy, even though 2 months ago they said they canceled, took it off the streaming service. But apparently there's been such a fan outcry, bigger than the one for Enterprise, Season 2, more similar to the TOS one, that apparently Paramount might just change its mind. Yeah, and put Prodigy Season 2, because apparently they've already finished it. They just have to polish it and then put the animation's done, so they just have to put it somewhere. Yeah, since it's Nickelodeon and it's associated with Amazon, why can't they just put it over there? It's Paramount and Amazon are kind of the same universe, and they often trade with Paramount stuff. Put it on Amazon Prime. That's a good place. Put it on Amazon Prime. That would still be social, or just put it on Paramount Plus. It's I don't know if they're going to change their minds or not, but they did say a 99% possibility, the directors did, that they might, producers did, that they might actually put it out, even though they said months ago it was just canceled. Apparently they were the producers at Paramount and CBS were taken aback that there were that many people interested in Prodigy. Well, they needed to show it in order, for one thing, and then people were interested. It's actually, in some ways, it's more adult than Lower Decks, in that the themes of Season 1 were more adult than Lower Decks. But it's supposed to be a kid's show, and Lower Decks would have adult-themed naughty bits here and there. The adults would get, and it was animated, but it would seem more for the adults, and it's not a kid's show, yet it would have had a lot of kid stuff in it. So, it's like a Starfleet Academy type of thing. They shouldn't try for Starfleet Academy musicals like the last Star Trek episode. Anyway, so they shouldn't do that. Starfleet Academy. 2009 Star Trek movie made Kirk rise the ranks too fast. The newer one is kind of retconning that, putting it back. No, he's on the Farragut first, and then he's going to be on the Enterprise eventually. And they fixed that. They could have just asked people when they did the J.J. Abrams movie back in the day. But anyway, so Prodigy is they didn't think to, because they did Wrath of Khan remake too, and they did that wrong. But Prodigy, you had its own unique kind of thing, Delta Quadrant thing, and it was different, and you had taking place in the same universe and timeline as Lower Decks, but just a few years after Lower Decks, but only a few. So they decided to go from there. And the Voyager B was shown briefly on a screen in Picard Season 2, which is set in 2403, roughly. They said 2401, didn't they? But they mean 2403. 2401, they fixed the timeline, Stardate thing that we noticed before, as Trek Yards and Trek Movie also did. The Stardates were messed up when they did that movie, because Nemesis was 2002, when Picard Season 1 was technically 2020, so it should have been 18 years later, not 20 years later. And it should have been, then it would have lined up. But they said 20, so yeah. Then they did season 2. They said the first one was $23.99. It should have actually been $23.96, 97, around there. That's when Picard season 1 should have been. Season 2 should have been set in 2400, roughly. I guess it kind of was, 22.99. And season 3 should have been 2403. But it's not. They said 2401 and matched it up with Federation Day. They screwed it up. So they tried to retcon it back and say, no, actually these events were earlier and timeline is weird, timey-wimey stuff. Which they reference into the other thing. So it's connected. So we had a Lower Decks Strange Worlds crossover. And yeah, so we have people wanted Prodigy. Fans wanted Prodigy back. They did footage of it. If they've done completed footage of it, they've probably completed half of a season at least, and they just got around to showing it. I mean, you do the animation all at once, and then you do the voices. So they've already got the voices in there. Robert Picardo, AMH, and costumes looking advanced of the ones from the Lower Decks, but not too much. Because they would be similar. But yeah. But the costume, the uniforms can change here and there. Lamar class of Voyager B. Similar in size, apparently, to the 20-something deck, the original Enterprise. Of course, the Voyager was about the same length as the original Enterprise. Go back and look at the 20-something decks. Voyager was like 15 decks, I think. It was a little smaller. But the new Voyager A is slightly bigger. Lamar class. Lamar, oddly enough, named after Hedy Lamarr, the actress. So it's actually a reference to Blazing Saddles and the bad guy. It was called Hedy Lamarr. No. It's a reference to Hedy Lamarr, the actress in the 40s. It was also a scientist, apparently. It's weird that they would call it that. Why not give it a name like Pathfinder class or something? Yeah, something that sounds more Voyager-y. Yeah, maybe name it after the class of, well, they didn't, but name it after the class of the other one. It was sort of like they had that extra Intrepid in Picard Season 3, and that shouldn't have, yeah, that should be another ship. They can't use Intrepid because they have Intrepid class. But then again, they were complaining about the Katinga class and the D7 being misnamed and misnomered on Strange New Worlds there over at Trek Yards, and some of my comments in there were rather confusing. But the gag there was that they wanted to retcon that particular ship class. They could just say, okay, it's like how different contractor companies build different jet planes and commercial aircraft and things. And like you know, F4 is built by somebody different than the F-18 or the F-14 or the F-22. They're all built by Donald Douglas or Boeing or Northrop Grumman or something. And maybe the shipyards in the Klingon Empire, the shipyards that builds the Katinga, is the Katinga shipyards. But they also build the Scout class with D5 and D7. So they can just say, oh, Katinga class. Or that's fighter plane, or that's cruiser, or that's Scout. This company built it. Yeah, that's my way of retconning the retcon here. Saying, well, they built it. All right. So if Lamar company built another Voyager, then fine. But yeah, that's not what happened, but they just screwed up. But yeah. But yeah, it should be the D7. Well, maybe the Universal Translator says D7 in it. It's not what the Klingons call it. Yeah. And there are, and maybe it refers to the division. Maybe there's because there are 7 in the D7 Katinga thing. If you look up the Klingon ships, there's 7, or Tonga and Katinga is one of them. Just one of the 7, and maybe D7 refers to that division of 7 ships. There's a Scout, and then there's a light cruiser, heavy cruiser, and then yeah, from there. The D5 is another another class of ship that's similar. The Bird of Prey is 3 different ships. The Bird of Prey, the original Star Trek that the Romulans got a hold of was a D5 and a D7, but there was a Bird of Prey that looked completely different in the movies. And the Katinga looks completely different as a heavy cruiser in Star Trek: The Motion Picture, because the one from years earlier, well, they figured, although technically, yeah, I don't know why I'm rambling about the Katinga, but yeah, it's complicated. Yeah, the idea that they just wanted to make things look different. The motion picture, the Klingons' heads look different, so maybe they meant for it to look like that. Yeah. They meant for the Klingons to have funny ridges on their heads. Because really in the classic Trek, they gave them grease paint and put little Fu Manchu mustaches on them and had them running around going, ha 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 ha. So it's a little bit racially insensitive to Asiatic people of that time period. What were they thinking? And of course, Mirror Spock had the little mustache. Okay, it's a little bit odd there, but oh yeah. Anyway, so also there's the Romulans were supposed to be the Vulcans were the Vulcans were basically of a Palestinian or a descent or Jewish descent or something like that in terms of their idea. The premise of Nimoy was, of course, Jewish. I think Shatner was a little bit too. I think Shatner's a little bit too. No, but yeah. So that society was like this sort of mirroring the Middle East at that time, a desert planet with mysterious ways and whatever, which is, could be a little sensitive if they go the wrong way. But yeah, so the Vulcans were meant to be that. The Cardassians were meant to be Germans. The Romulans were meant to be sort of middle. I would say the Romulans were meant to be probably the Palestinians, or something like that. Pseudo-Arabic characters, spun off from the other ones. Yeah, and the Hebrew, Jewish descent, Israeli descent for the Vulcans. Of course, the Federation were Americans. The other people were thrown around, and the Klingons were supposed to be. At first, they were literally supposed to be like an anagram of the Chinese and the Soviets, that kind of thing. And then it became more the Soviets and the Vikings, Viking pirates. Next generation, they were like Viking Soviet pirates. Yeah, the original. So they were doing that. Even though Chekhov's on the ship, he should like the Klingons. He was supposed to be Russian, I guess. They did miss a couple opportunities in that sing-along Star Trek episode. I mentioned it before in my review that they did not sing the Star Trek theme song. I did in my review. And they should have. It should have been in the credits. And also they missed an opportunity, like they commented on the Klingons saying that they were, and I'm rambling on about other, this is a Star Trek update after the Prodigy things. Yeah, the idea that they do the idea that the Klingons being like Viking dudes, like Viking Russian guys, they wouldn't be doing like a Queen / Rocky Horror thing / show tunes opera. No, they would be Wagnerian opera with the fake horn helmets and all that. Even though Vikings didn't have horn helmets, they would do it anyway because they're the Klingons. So they would have opera stuff going on. They would have opera crossed with like thrash metal and like punk metal and stuff like that because they're Klingons. They would do that. So if anything, they would bust out into something that sounds like Immigrant Song from Thor Ragnarok and from other stuff before that. Or they would bust out into a Wagnerian opera. La la la, dun 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 dun. Yeah, because of course they're Vikings, space Vikings. I I'm not sure what I'm rambling about here. Probably going to cut it out. Anyway, so, yeah, Star Trek Prodigy,